This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. Man, I could podcast about just yesterday's game for, 6 hours solo. What the was that? I wish. Now that it's over, it's done. It's been almost 24 hours. I would love to rewatch the last 20 or maybe even 30 minutes. I get Mark Leiter Jr. in the eighth, but not the game, just a camera trained on me. Because if you want me to lose my mind, you can't script it any better than what we had to watch yesterday. Although, dub, secured, game over, series one. Now we can just talk about it, laugh about it, instead of assess what genuinely might have been the worst single game collapse in this franchise's history, and would have been if Gleyber Torres, whose glove was pointed the wrong way on an easy chopper to second, induced on Clay Holmes' 45th pitch of the contest, encompassing both the eighth and ninth inning. It would have been, I think, indisputably the worst single game regular season loss 10 years, 20 years. Find me a worse one. Now, that argument is weakened by the fact that the Braves had a worse one yesterday. They blew an 8-2 lead in the eighth. And
everybody always does that in Colorado.
They really do. And it happened so quickly, and it's like hard to even assess that. It's like, what should we have done better? Not allow any of the 9 Colorado Rockies who got on base in a row to have done so. But man, what a wild game last night. Yesterday afternoon. I mean, it stretched into the evening. Yeah. Can't even really blame Clay Holmes. Can't even really blame Aaron Boone, but it was just a top to bottom shit show set up by poor defense, bad bullpen work. Pre-Holmes, the setup work was dreadful. That put undue pressure on Holmes, had to get additional outs. Didn't. Again, it was 8-3 in the eighth. There's no reason Clay Holmes should be pitching in the eighth. And yet, he faced the other team's best player as the tying run. Don't forget that when you're thinking about the ninth inning. So are we back? Are the Yankees back? Or did they just narrowly avoid losing a series at Fenway, literally down to the last strike, then sweep a spiraling Phillies team on the road that everybody's sweeping and we play better on the road, and then edge past the Blue Jays in 2 out of 3 as well as the Rangers? Because series loss to the Angels, 3 blowout losses in a 4-game stretch there for a little bit. Are we worried about the Yankees as the bats come alive and the pitching continues to falter, or were they stung by circumstances this week, knocked out by doubleheaders and washouts and rain and all that gibberish, and somehow still tied atop the American League East? Anthony Volpe's a problem. Jazz Chisholm could be an issue at his current position, and after fouling a ball off his body yesterday, which is what everybody does. Bullpen solutions, Jose Trevino rehabbing and giving us an odd question to answer. We will talk about it all on today's show, and joining me to do so is Thomas Carannante, always my co-host. Thomas, thank you for joining me.
Always a pleasure.
To mess around.
Yeah, we're messing around today for sure. Odd conversations, right? You have these 2 doubleheaders in the span of a couple days because of rain up here. Really depressing times. But I kind of chalked up the Angels series as well. First of all, welcome back, everybody. I know we didn't talk to you on Thursday. We had this special episode with Jabba Chamberlain. Hope you enjoyed the post-deadline recap, some insights from a former player. Always think that's valuable to provide perspective, especially kind of how we maybe undermine the process where you realize humans are changing hands and it's a little bit more intense than you might think. So that was, we thought, a very insightful episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. Now we're back to talk live Yankees baseball. And what do I think? I think we're in a situation right now where we're seeing the Yankees' overall talent lift them as opposed to strategy and disciplined play, because still that's an issue with injuries and with these slumps at the plate. Like, I don't know how Anthony Volpe keeps doing this. It's crazy to me. But then again, I can't blame him because every Yankee outside of Aaron Judge and Juan Soto does this for the past 5 years. So who is to blame? You look at the rainouts, that doubleheader against the Angels because of the rainout, whatever. Like, it was nonsense to me. We could pick it apart, right? Nestor Cortez gets destroyed. Tyler Anderson pitches a gem. Sure, unfavorable conditions if that is a regular afternoon or 3-evening game set. I don't think it turns out that way, but I could be wrong because they've done dumb stuff before, and they'll continue to do dumb stuff. I don't know if I'm ready to minimize their recent run just because we've seen the Yankees, and what we complain about the most over these last couple of years is that they play down to their competition, right? Every series where it's like, let's get a win here, let's get a sweep here, it always looks a lot harder than it should. And they kind of have not done that for the most part. Like, the Rangers are a good team. The Angels are not good, but they have heated up a bit as of their young guys are coming around. I'm not saying it's any excuse for the Yankees to lose the series, but you saw what happened when they ran into the Mets when the Mets were hot. You saw what happened when they ran into the Red Sox and the Red Sox were hot. It just doesn't go your way. You want to talk about a series in Fenway? I'm never going to minimize that no matter what happened.
No.
And sweeping the Phillies, I think, is kind of huge. Blue Jays fighting for their lives every single day to either save their manager's fate for next year or all of their futures for the offseason. Not going to discount beating a division rival, especially because we don't do that this year. It's a weird spot right now for Yankees baseball. I think the talent is carrying them. I think Aaron Boone's got to tighten it up a little bit. I think the starting rotation has to improve. I think we saw a good step in the right direction, right? Last podcast, when we were live, we talked about Marcus Stroman being an objective problem. Over a month of bad starts, he gets 8 days off this time around, rebounds beautifully. What was it, 5 shutty or 5-1 earned yesterday?
Yeah, 5+ 1 earned. He, of course, after the lead swells from 2-0 to 5-0, he gives up an immediate single and ribby double and then gets yanked. Yeah. But I'll take that from him every day, especially after what we've seen. You go into a Stroman start these days thinking like, well, if they put up 8, they could win. And that's not fair or a cool thing to have in your rotation. And he, hung a few, got away with them, but I would say mostly was pretty on point yesterday.
Yeah, I agree, and he's a professional. I think we expressed confidence that he would figure it out at some point. Pitchers go through that. I'm willing to give him some leash because he historically has second-half problems. My issue with this series is Aaron Boone, and I don't know if that's going to be a surprise to anybody because I'm tough on Aaron Boone, but the manner in which the one loss happened. Look, won 8-0 the first game of the doubleheader on Saturday. Yeah. You can't ask for a better start than that. So I'm not saying you need to go out and absolutely win the second game, but when the second game features Garrett Cole going 5 1/3 with 10 strikeouts, probably got to win that game. And to me, that was on the manager. He brings out Cole for the 6th inning and lets him throw 2 pitches to Wyatt Langford. Wyatt Langford gets out, and then Aaron Boone pulls him for Luke Weaver. Why? I don't know. Why is Garrett Cole starting the inning if you have a plan to pull him? Again, things that we constantly don't understand. Unless Garrett Cole is starting the 7th or the 8th and you have a matchup problem in a tight game, absolutely. This was the 6th inning in a 1-1 game, and there was no need because Cole had breezed through, I think, the last 6 batters or something. So he had a few more pitches in the tank. You're not going to convince me you're playing matchups with Nathaniel Lau in the 6th inning. I'm sorry. I know Luke Weaver is better against lefties, but that's not the right spot for him. And again, Luke Weaver goes out and takes care of business. We're not talking about this. Mm-hmm. But this also speaks to a larger problem. It's these decisions that have no rhyme or reason to them. Why is Garrett Cole starting the inning and throwing 2 pitches and being pulled? Doesn't make any sense. Luke Weaver, I'm totally fine with coming into this game. I don't like split inning duties for relievers. It continues to fail for the Yankees every single time it happens. This was an instance to completely avoid it. Now you go to yesterday's game where they almost blew it. Maybe this is nitpicky. Maybe it's not. But you just had 2 doubleheaders in the span of 3 days? The doubleheader was Thursday, off day Friday, doubleheader
Saturday. Yeah.
So the bullpen's taxed. I'm going to sympathize with Aaron Boone here, but that's also why I'm going to go back to these decisions. It's like, the bullpen's taxed. Give Garrett Cole 10 more pitches. That solves the problem. Here, the bullpen's taxed. You just used Jake Cousins, who came in and fucking obliterated the Rangers. That was one of the most impressive innings we've seen from any reliever on the Yankees this year. He throws 18 pitches. Jake Cousins has proven to go more than 1 inning. Why at this point, when you have an exhausted bullpen and Jake Cousins hasn't pitched in a couple days, why wouldn't you bring him out for the next inning to try and save as much runway as you possibly could? I'm not saying bringing in Tommy Kahnle was a dumb idea. I'm not saying bringing in Mark Leiter Jr. was a dumb idea, but by removing Cousins, who has the ability to go multiple innings at that point after what he had just done, exposes you to potential more bullpen nonsense. And that's exactly what happened. I don't know if keeping Jake Cousins in for another inning was the solution. I just certainly know that after Marcus Stroman goes essentially 5 scoreless, that using 3 of your most high leverage pitchers in a game where you're leading 8-1 is not the move.
Cousins gave up a single to Garcia to start that next inning, and then they yanked him immediately.
Sorry. Yes. That's right.
Yeah.
Why are we yanking somebody at the first sign of minimal trouble?
It's a 5-run game at that point too. So your goal is, you're trying to, clearly if you started the inning with Cousins, you're trying to get him through it, right? Yeah. So Garcia, it's a 2-2 breaker. It's diving towards the other batter's box. It's a pretty good pitch. He pokes it to right field for a single. Adolis Garcia hits a single off you in a 6-1 game. Relatively favorable outcome. Because that's somebody who, if you make a mistake, hits at 480 feet. That's what I thought was going to happen in the 9th. Luckily, it didn't. Hit an even softer single in that particular instance. But Cousins gives up, 2-2 pitch, can't get him on the slider. Obviously, you snap your fingers and it bums you out when it happens. You're like, I thought he had him, and then he didn't. But they go right to Kahnle for the bottom of the lineup. And he gets Leody Taveras, and Carson Kelly hits an infield single that Jazz Chisholm can't handle. Little dribbler, whatever, victimized by soft contact. Josh Smith bunts to Jazz. Smart baseball. All of a sudden, the bases are loaded and you're back in trouble. There's no reason Jake Cousins can't buzzsaw through Taveras and Carson Kelly there. Mm-hmm. They let Carson Kelly reach base over and over again yesterday. It was just one of those games where no matter who they tried, that person was at their weakest, except for Jake Cousins, who looked really great and got hit softly through the hole. I absolutely would have continued. I would have kept Cousins in, or I would have started. I know you don't want to start the inning with Kahnle, but if I'm going to bring in Kahnle, I'm not doing it with a runner on first.
Correct. Yeah. So sorry, my anger blinded by the facts. I don't, that was another frustrating thing. It's like the first sign of can we even call a single off the bat of Adolis Garcia trouble when you're up 5?
I wouldn't.
Is that trouble? Again, you're trying to save your bullets. You're trying to preserve the bullpen. You have a 3-game road series coming up. I just don't understand why you don't have him see another batter. And then if that batter gets a hit, then you go to the bullpen, I guess.
And even to drill down on your point from earlier, if Cole gets pulled after the first out of the 6th inning, and after the game, Aaron Boone said it was because he was on a pretty strict 90-pitch limit after the fatigue body issue.
He shouldn't have been in.
Yeah, if he's on a pretty strict 90-pitch limit, then you got real lucky that he was able to retire the first batter of that inning and end it at 90 pitches. Because what if that guy has a 10-pitch AB and all of a sudden Cole's at 98?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh, he was on a 90-pitch limit, but then I decided to extend him. And then all the questions are, why did he even start the inning if he went that far beyond your perceived limit? And then luckily they get the 1 out on 2 pitches and he's able to exit right at 90. But it makes you think about, okay, did Aaron, was he prepared? Did he know that a 2-pitch out was coming? Because otherwise that strategy makes no sense.
Well, yeah. And I was sitting there and I was just like, what's going on? And I was like, maybe I'm just being an idiot. I get really nitpicky with bullpen decisions because sometimes they make no sense from my perspective. And obviously I don't know much, the manager probably knows more than me, but then Paul O'Neill's sitting there on the broadcast and he's like, I don't understand this. And I'm like, okay, good. Because I don't either, Paul, and you played baseball for a really long time and you probably understand the ins and outs and the logic for these things. And if this makes 0 sense to you and it makes 0 sense to me, then I think there's some validity to it. It's just whenever this team can avoid split inning duty for anybody, unless we're talking an emergency, that should be the move. And I don't know how that hasn't been learned by now. We saw all of the horror stories with Zach Britton in split inning duty, with Aroldis Chapman in split inning duty. Go down the list. Keep naming all the relievers who have broken our souls over the last 5 years. It does not work unless and the only time we're fine with it maybe working or not is when it's runners on first and third. The inning got out of hand. Whoops, we fucked up. Runners second and third. First hitter got a single. You had a good count on the next hitter. He roped the double down the line. Nothing you can do about it. But to take Cole out after he got a 2-pitch out to one of the Rangers' better hitters, and then to take Cousins out after a weak single off the bat of Adolis Garcia just exposed the Yankees to more error, and that's exactly what happened. But again, I'm glad they came away with the win. I'm glad the offense is producing for the most part. I'm glad that they got after 2 former Yankees in Andrew Heaney and Nathan Eovaldi. That was deeply satisfying. Mm-hmm. But yeah, questions remain, and I think the bullpen, we're going to sit here and we're going to be talking about it for a while because they didn't do enough.
It's a nice job. Yeah, it's a nice job by the Yankees to secure the series win.
I agree.
There's so much yelling all the time, constantly. Like, what matters right now is the standings, too. Like, if you're still watching the Orioles, which you should be because the Yankees are tied for the AL East lead, that's obviously extremely important. You also have to watch the margin between the Yankees and a playoff spot. They need to clinch a playoff spot. What the most important thing is getting into the postseason. Second most important thing is winning the East. It'd be awesome to win the East. But is a single loss or a single series loss going to be determinative right now of their chances to win the East? No. And is their margin at the back end where they're trying to maintain a lead in the wild card race small enough that losing a series is going to torpedo their season? It really shouldn't. So no series right now is so important that you must win it or else like heads have to roll. And after the Yankees lost the Angels series and were going to a rubber match for the Rangers series, was fending off tweets that were like, this is a must-win series. It's like, it actually isn't. It would be great if they could win it. You don't want to lose series. 2 in a row would be a real problem heading into the White Sox series. But they're still at a point where they can steer out of the skid. Yep. White Sox going to be really annoying, by the way, because Angels, right? Everybody knows, young team gelling. The lineup is hot, and they're playing for pride right now, and sometimes that's a dangerous thing. Also, the Yankees enter that series with everyone's acting like the series loss to the Angels is the worst thing that ever happened. They enter this series without Will Warren in the mix, but Will Warren has to throw a game because of the doubleheader. They win the first game of the doubleheader, lose the second because they have to start a minor leaguer. All right, next game. It's going to really bother me as time goes by that every time there's rain and slop conditions, it's always the Yankees that look unprepared and not their opponent, who in this case was a below 500 team. That's an argument for another day, but you can't just objectively take that Angel series and be like, Nestor's been bad for like a month and a half. He's not going to be in the postseason plans. But if you watch that game, you know that A, it was played in a driving rain for all 9 innings, and B, the monsoon conditions picked up when Nestor was on the mound in the 3rd and 5th. I don't know how there wasn't a rain delay in either of those innings. Ultimately, players on the field have to decide the game. Nestor wasn't good enough. But the conditions that he was pitching through were absurd. And I don't really know.
He gave up most of his runs in the 5th, too.
Yeah, he had the rain picked up in the 3rd and 5th. He started the 3rd inning with 3 consecutive hits. And so being in the stands, it's starting the 3rd inning. We ran to the overhang. Like, we're not going to watch this. They're going to stop this any second now. And they just let him put base runners on and never stopped it. And in the 5th, it was the same thing. It was like, it's pouring rain. It would be great if you could retire the 3rd batter of this inning. Oh, well, you couldn't. And then things spiraled out of control because Enyel De Los Santos is bad and Juan Soto can't make a diving catch. Bad series, but a lot of extenuating circumstances. Rangers, another freaking doubleheader, and good job taking the first one, and good job surviving Sunday. But that's a World Series champion lineup that added Wyatt Langford. Like, if you're struggling and your pitching is struggling, then I'm sorry. The Texas Rangers record has almost nothing to do with your ability to beat them. And when you get Andrew Heaney and Nathan Eovaldi and a lefty, by the way, the Yankees never hit lefties, and this guy's got an under 4 ERA, and you're facing him in the second game of a doubleheader, then you could get swept in this series pretty easily. That's a better the deck is stacked in the Rangers' favor more than it was the Reds when they swept you at the beginning of July. You know, and they go ahead and win that series. Yesterday, though, all things considered, the worst win I have maybe ever seen. And if you want to say, is hanging in the balance when Jazz Chisholm made that 2-base error cut in front of Anthony Volpe. And I would say that was that inning 3 times when he couldn't handle the soft grounder, when the bunt was directed his way because the Rangers were playing smart baseball and they know that's not a third baseman out there. And he cuts in front of Volpe to try to make a inning-ending play. I guess he wanted the ball in his hands. I wouldn't even call it showy. He just didn't have the awareness to know that Volpe was behind him. That's a bad sequence of events, but I can forgive him. I feel not good about it, but he was not a third baseman, and he was put at third base. You hope he limits the fuck ups to fewer than 3 per inning, but sometimes it's gonna come back to bite you. The one that I would argue with is Gleyber Torres. Then on the final out of the inning, cuts in front of Volpe 2 to make a sidearm throw to first base. Jazz Chisholm's learning on the fly. Gleyber Torres, you've been there for 7 years. You should know what you're doing.
Yeah. I'm going to be pooping my pants all year in 8th, 9th inning situations with this defense. I'm not criticizing Jazz Chisholm, but are we looking at the beginning of what's going to be a problem? I don't know. I hope not, but again, the guy's never played first base. He came here in a trade. We sat here and said, wow, versatility, second base, center field, fits perfectly with what we're trying to do. Let's start getting that into the mix. And then he was moved to third because either the team had no plan, or they didn't communicate with Gleyber Torres, or they let Gleyber Torres make the decision that nobody else is playing second base except me, and for some reason he is the judge, jury, and executioner there. That if that is true, that is a poor way of handling it. It would not be any different in terms of how the Yankees have handled the trade deadline in years past, with trading Jordan Montgomery, not doing anything in 2023, despite the team badly needing reinforcements. I understand the logic there, but like, you're not even going to try. You're going to get a middle reliever and call it a day. Joey Gallo, not a fit. I mean, the list goes on and on. Not doing anything in 2020. Again, it's either inactivity or imperfect fits with question marks next to them and a clear indication that there was no communication from the top down. That said, again, the Yankees' talent is superior. They have good players all over the diamond. They have the ability to score runs. They have the ability to shut down opposing lineups. I think it's a matter of a semblance of consistency outside of Judge and Soto. It's Aaron Boone just being a little bit better with the bullpen. Again, I'll give Aaron Boone credit. The Carlos Rodon start in the first game of the doubleheader, he managed it perfectly. He let Rodon go to 110 pitches. He pulled him after 5 2/3. He went to Ron Marinaccio. He used Marinaccio for as long as he possibly could.
Yep.
Got to exactly where he needed to be. Then Tim Hill comes in, shut the door, goodbye.
That's my favorite thing. When it's a blowout and the hot hand is in there covering innings, cover as many innings as you can. If it's not working, pull the trigger and remove the pitcher. If it's gone from 9-0 to 9-3, second and third, 1 out, I don't need to see the worst reliever try to get this game to the finish line. But if Marinaccio is doing the job is his. Finish it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing where this is confusing, because from what we've discerned from Aaron Boone's bullpen management, it's that he loves to steal outs. His favorite thing is to steal outs.
Yeah.
And then you run into these situations with Garrett Cole and Jake Cousins, and it's like, why are you not stealing more outs with Garrett Cole? Why are you not giving Jake Cousins a longer leash when he has the ability to give you length and these other guys don't? Like, I don't want Tommy Kahnle throwing 25, 30 pitches in an outing. It rarely ends well. You know, I don't want Clay Holmes going even close to 25 pitches.
Well, spoiler alert. He got past 25 pitches yesterday.
He sure did. And then you look at Mark Leiter Jr. I like him. I think he's being horribly misused. He gets off the fucking plane the day after the trade deadline and they throw him into the fire. Then he pitches the next day. And it's like, he pitched, I think, the day before too in this one. He pitched in the 9-4 loss.
Yeah, he showed up in the late portion of the doubleheader.
Why is he in that game? I understand you have to use arms and it's complicated, but you just used the day before. Rodon goes 5 2/3. I mean, the game before.
That's again why we're so screwed here. Like, fans discount. If you're assessing the Yankees' struggles this week, you need to include the fact that they played 4 games in 3 days with a weird off day in the middle. Like, this got wonked out. It's the easy part of their schedule, right? And it got predictably wonked out by nasty tropical depression weather storm. So nothing is easy. That's why I hate when fans are just like, their winning percentages, you know, they're facing all these teams with shitty winning percentages. Like, they're going to feast this month.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to show up. The pitching matchup has to make sense. And Mother Nature is at play. Like, injuries are at play. Fate is at play. And so is 2 doubleheaders in 3 days here. And they're not facing Garrett Crochet in this White Sox series, it would seem. luckily, but they also don't have a starting pitcher for game 3 of this White Sox series because of the double headers. It's going to have to be some sort of maneuvering to get Will Warren back up, or a bullpen day, or just an absolute fill-in. Like, I would love to sweep the White Sox. Be great. It's going to be hard. They are the lowest talent level major league team, and it's far from a given that the Yankees sweep. Hopefully they take the series sweep, would be fantastic. But there's no starter in the third game of this series, and Nestor Cortes goes in the second one. It's not easy. And the bullpen, I don't want Clay Holmes throwing 25 pitches either. He threw 45. He's not pitching today. He's not pitching tomorrow. Whoever, let's say they have a 3-2 lead against the White Sox in the ninth, you're already nervous with Holmes coming in, cardiac, regardless of White Sox, Red Sox. Doesn't matter. 1-run leads are tough to protect. They don't have their closer tonight. So can't be presumptuous and say, oh, they're going to take care of business. I really hope they do. But the circumstances, not that favorable. There's going to be some survival in a road series against a team that has 90 losses in August. It's never as easy as your schedule makes it look like it will be.
Yeah. And again, like, that's why it's on the manager, because these types of situations, like, there's nothing else to do outside of navigate the team. Like, you look back, Jay Cousins last pitched on Thursday. That was the final game of the Angels series, right? Thursday. And he threw 15 pitches. And it's like, you have Tim Hill throwing back-to-back games from Thursday to Saturday. Then you have Tommy Kahnle and Mark Leiter Jr. throwing Saturday second game and Sunday game. And you have Clay Holmes nowhere to be found in any of the previous 3 games. You have Luke Weaver nowhere to be found until the second game of the doubleheader against the Rangers. So it's like, the bullpen is down bad, and you're not utilizing your multi-inning options outside of the one Marinaccio move successfully. So that's where you take issue. And obviously, Boone's job is not easy right now. You don't have the length from the starting pitchers for the most part that you want. I think Stroman's start is very encouraging, the 5 innings and 1 earned, but he had runway to go 6 and he didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of, then you're sitting there and you're like, damn it, got to warm up the bullpen, got to get this moving now. And you want to talk about the bullpen, like, don't know if it's getting better. Yeah. I think we're stuck with this. Like, you look at right now, it's Cousins, De Los Santos, Tim Hill, Clay Holmes, Tommy Kahnle, Mark Leiter Jr., Michael Tonkin, Luke Weaver, and on the injured list, JT Brubaker. I don't think he's coming back this year, though.
There's no reason to expect him to.
Yeah. You have Ian Hamilton coming back. You have Clark Schmidt coming back. You maybe have Cody Poteet coming back. You maybe have Lou Trevino coming back. You maybe have Scott Effross coming back. So you have a bunch of maybes. You have 0 solutions outside of Clark Schmidt slotting back into the rotation. I'm sitting here and I'm watching Nestor Cortez's last month of action, and I don't even think he's suited for a bullpen role at this point.
No. If
he's leaving his soft tossing, 90-mile-an-hour stuff in the middle of the zone, there's no role in the bullpen for that.
Why wouldn't I prefer Tim Hill? Like, exactly. What are we talking about? We're going to make our worst starter learn bullpen? The people who go from the rotation to the bullpen are people whose stuff plays up. Why would Nestor's stuff play up in a shorter spurt?
I know. Look, we discussed it. We thought he would be a good long relief option back when, it was April and he was doing fine, but everybody was outperforming him. And you're like, yeah, this is a situation where you have an erratic Luis Gil whose command issues are a bit of a problem. Not anything glaring, but you'd rather him not coming in the 7th or 8th inning. I'd rather utilize Nestor to eat innings 2, 3, 4 out of the bullpen. But at this rate, I don't know if he's capable of doing that. So
long relief is valuable. Like, for instance, I don't know, just pulling this out of my ass. Let's say the Yankees are up 6-1 in the 7th inning against the Texas Rangers. I would like Nestor Cortes in my bullpen. Get this game to the finish line.
Yep.
6-1. End the baseball game. Give up 1 or 2 runs in 3 innings. Save my bullpen. So right now, as currently constructed, they don't have to do anything, but they go to Kahnle because I guess they overused Tonkin the day before and the doubleheaders throw everything off. Right now, I guess Tonkin is your guy. If you're up 5 or 6 and you need 2 innings and it's just like, you'll finish this, I believe. I do not think you'll fall apart. It might not be aesthetically pleasing and you can't give me 3, but you'll finish this. Nestor, if anything, can put a blowout or a relative blowout to bed effectively. But that's a pretty uninspiring case. Like, oh, we got to move into the playoff bullpen because in case we're up like 6, he can finish off a game and save the other relievers. There's value there, but not comparatively not that much. And I don't want to bring him into a tight game to wriggle out of anything.
No, absolutely not. And the problem is not even with him. The problem is the greater picture of the bullpen. We'll call it 2, Enyel De Los Santos and Mark Leiter Jr. at the trade deadline. Sure. But to me, De Los Santos is going to be just as replaceable as the last guy in the bullpen.
Where was he up 6-1 yesterday, by the way? Like,
he threw the first game of the doubleheader.
No, he pitched in the Angels series. We didn't see him in this series.
33 pitches on Thursday and then didn't pitch and is, I guess, saving bullets for today.
8-3 in the 8th yesterday. And, De Los Santos get that to the finish line instead of Mark Leiter Jr. for the 9th time in 10 games. Like, I don't know. Yeah. It's funny because the one thing that everybody had a disagreement with yesterday, which was riding Holmes to the end of the game, like I actually didn't have a problem with that. Let's do a hypothetical where Holmes is at 39 pitches and Adolis Garcia is coming up as the lead run. Some of you folks want to bring in Michael Tonkin or De Los Santos there.
No,
like for me, you're maybe kind of already screwed at that point. But hey, which of your relievers has closing experience? If you're polling who has the best stuff remaining, it's Holmes, as evidenced by the fact that with after Garcia's single against Taveras, 1-1 pitch, he dotted 98 on the corner with a sinker. So it's not like he was throwing 94 and you just had to pray. Like he had the best stuff of any remaining option. He just lost the plate at an inopportune time and lost his sinker grip in favor of overemphasis on sliders. And the Wyatt Langford walk was unforgivable after he got the first 2 guys just nowhere close, walked him on 5 pitches.
Mm-hmm.
But look, am I scared that he's at 45 and that he has the potential to lose the game that was 8-6 with nobody on and 2 outs in the 9th? Absolutely. But I'm certainly not going to Tonkin with runners on the corners, 2 outs, and Taveras at the plate there and saying, I rode you for 40-plus pitches, but now I'm bringing in somebody worse than you, especially because he rewarded the faith. He uncorked 98 at the bottom of the zone there. I wish on 1-2 he'd gone back to the sinker. Instead, we waste a couple sliders, and then Taveras kind of just rolls over one, and Gleyber Torres remembers at the last second how to field the baseball. But of all the Aaron Boone moves, I thought the last one that everybody got mad at was correct. But I thought the rest of the game and series was managed very poorly.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know who else you're going to in that situation. Again, like you could argue the previous moves have allowed him to be pigeonholed with having to use Holmes there. And that's what created the problem. That's where I'm at. At that point, he was doing the best with what he had. Again, it's a hard job. I understand that. But some of it is questionable. Broadcast questions it. If broadcast is questioning it with former players, post-game's questioning it with analysts who are staring at this team day in and day out, it's a conversation. It just simply is. And you look at Mark Leiter Jr., 2 home runs in his previous 36 1/3 innings with the Cubs this year. He comes to New York, 6 2/3, and gives up 2 home runs in 2/3 of an inning or whatever it was against the Rangers. What's happening? Why 12 hits in 6 2/3 innings? Can somebody explain that? Why is he pitching the moment he gets off the plane?
Mm-hmm.
Why is he pitching back-to-back days after he's traded?
In my opinion, they've already won that trade because of what he gave them in extras against the Phillies. And
I agree.
But
I'm not opposed to the trade. No. It's club control. He's got stuff, but what are they doing? Like you acquired this guy under the belief that he'd be able to stretch the bullpen out for the remainder of the season. Because remember, he was injured for a little bit of time, so he got some rest. He's not as taxed as a lot of these other relievers in the Yankees bullpen. So there was a little bit of a silver lining with him going down. And then you even go farther back and you look at his numbers. And when he actually slipped this year to explain his 4.21 ERA with the Cubs in those 36 innings, it was largely a symptom of him dealing with an injury before officially being put on the shelf. So for the most part, he's had a really good season and was brought in here kind of fresh legs, fresh arm, whatever you want to call it. And then the Yankees have already done wrong by him. It seems like he's taxed already. 6 2/3 innings in 7 games since getting acquired on July 31st or 30th or whatever it was. Like, what's happening? So that's where the problems lie. And then again, you look at the bullpen solutions. There are none. Getting players back from injury is not a solution. Ian Hamilton, we like him a lot. Hasn't really looked good this year. He's been off. Injuries, mechanics, I don't know. Probably a combination of both. Probably mechanics suffering due to injury. Scott Efros, can't factor him into your plans. Lou Trevino, can't factor him into your plans. Who else did I have here? Forgot. Cody Poteet, sure. But that's
Yogo. I mean,
no.
Nothing for you on Yogo.
No. I mean, I think he is going to be a piece, but again, it's an inexperienced player in an all-important 2024 season. He has good stuff, not as electrifying as someone like Luis Heel, who I'm willing to gamble on in a high-stakes season because his stuff plays up, clearly overwhelming for major league hitters. I like Yogo. I don't think he's going to move the needle more than anybody else in the last 3 spots in the bullpen. And again, the guys who are shuttled to and from Scranton, it's just not a good vibe. It's not gonna get the team to where it needs to be. So I just hope we're not looking back at this trade deadline because I want to talk about the fun stuff. Soto, I'm so happy we have him. Every day I watch him bat, and you got to realize it's a blessing because you might not have it in November. Aaron Judge, Barry Bonds comparisons, and the stats are holding up against it.
It was fun yesterday. I mean, it lost and all the nonsense was like a guy like Andrew Chafin, top quality MLB reliever who kind of gets by on fringy stuff and location. And if the Yankees had just gone down 1-2-3 against him, like, you get it. That's like an all-star level reliever. Like, it's 91, 92. It plays up from the left side, quality arsenal. And Soto and Judge just like
destroy him,
pummel him.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not like him at his worst. That's just kind of what he looks like. And Soto and Judge were like, this is puny to me. I am mercilessly killing this. So, I mean, I would much rather focus on that than an epic all caps meltdown, which is what we saw from like 30 different sources, giving away outs, stealing outs from the bullpen. And then Leiter Jr., who is gassed already and hat tip to what he's done previously in the 10 days since the trade deadline. Love that. There's some games they've won that they don't win without him, but 8-3 game to 8-6, and the tying run is at the plate in the form of Corey Seager by the end of the 8th inning. Like, can't do that. Cannot do that. Can't walk Leody Taveras. Nathaniel Lowe doing whatever he's going to do. He put up some great ABs yesterday.
He's a good hitter.
The home run was on a splitter below the zone. His at-bat against Holmes in the 9th, it was like, that was a masterclass. It was like the Yoshida at-bat, except for he didn't go yard. He just walked and passed the baton. But good job by him. Shrug off a solo home run. Obviously, it makes you snap your fingers and go, I wish that hadn't happened. But you can shrug off a solo home run. You can't do a 2-run Carson Kelly homer. And you absolutely can't give up a Josh Smith double on a 2-strike pitch to the next batter. A lot of things you can't do, and they were all embodied by Leiter Jr. yesterday, who, like you said, looks kind of worn out. And if Yel De Los Santos is good for nothing, like if he's not usable in an 8-3 game in the 8th inning against the bottom of the lineup,
shouldn't be on the roster.
Why even surrender the asset that you gave up for him?
Yeah. It's just crazy. Like, we have 4 home runs yesterday, 2 from Soto, 1 from Judge, 1 from Stanton. Stanton's home run was the most fucking ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. Golfing a pitch, lower outer half over the left field fence on a rocket line drive. Like, and look, made him pay for a Judge intentional walk. So it was like everything was coming up. Great. We're going to have 2 nice, relaxing wins in this series after getting pigeonholed into these 2 bullshit doubleheaders. Great. And then the wheels come off. The team goes 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position and scores 8 runs. Fucking blessing. Like, everything went the Yankees' way, and then faulty defense at the end, which I don't know is a symptom of, maybe Jazz Chisholm got lucky with his third base debut, because it was like, oh, beginner's luck, new position, make some flashy plays, convince everybody you're actually a third baseman. But truth be told, he is not.
No.
You know how many reps it takes at any position to understand the role, understand the job, understand when to not encroach against the person next to you playing defense, how to play hops, very different from playing hops at second base. So I don't know, but this is what we worried about. And here are the warning signs, and it almost resulted in an unthinkable collapse. And this is what we're talking about, sadly. But yeah, I am thankful every day for Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. I am loving I am shocked with how Giancarlo Stanton's kind of just came back into this lineup and has been fine. Maybe I set the bar too low, but the expectations when he's come back from injury were baking in a 4 for 45 slump.
Mm-hmm.
And we're living with it, and that's fine. But he's put together good at-bats, sac fly, home run, putting good contact on the ball. He got robbed a couple of times with some rocket hits.
Mm-hmm.
Austin Wells in the cleanup role has been doing great work for us.
Yep.
Even Verdugo in the leadoff hole, I think he's got to stick to either there or the bottom of the lineup, and that's the solution. So yeah, I mean, we have Anthony Volpe to dish on, because I don't know what's going on there, but for the most part, like, things seem to be fine. Again, the Yankees' talent is carrying them. You don't want to see the outings where Nestor Cortez gives up 6 runs and the offense can't really, I'm not relying on any offense to come back from your starter giving up 6 runs in 4 innings, or whatever Marcus Stroman was doing for the first or for the last month, or whatever Carlos Rodon did over that 3-start stretch in the first inning. Like, the offense is never going to be blamed for not coming back out of a hole from that, but the pitching staff and the manager will certainly be blamed when you get 8 fucking runs and you're up by 6 or 5 and you can't hold on to that. Like, that's ridiculous. That's Bush League.
Jazz Chisholm at third base, like McLovin, going, I heard they decided to add more hops to it. I mean, Anthony Volpe, like, I think talk Volpe, Wells, and the trend up, trend down, wrap the show. Just like, look, Volpe's 0 for 23.
How does it keep happening?
Well, this particular, like, I think you got to contextualize that slump. And maybe I'm paranoid. Maybe I'm paranoid. Maybe I'm not. But 0 for 7 before he fouled the ball off his foot and played through the wet Angels game with foot pain. And since then, he's over another 16, which will put you at 0 for 23. That's abysmal. But Paul O'Neill, talk about broadcast diagnosis, was like, well, he's flying open right now. He's real off balance at the plate. And it's like, I wonder if his extremely painful, throbbing foot has left him off balance. They say X-ray is negative. They diagnose it as a bruise. But Yankee fans who've watched this team for years know what a bone bruise. I mean, Kyle Tucker has been out of the Astros lineup for 2 months with a bone bruise. He can't run bases. He's inching towards a rehab assignment. So just because it's a bruise doesn't mean it isn't severe. I hope it's not, but I think when you're talking about his slump, during which he has been stepping in the bucket and flying open and late on everything and looking like he was at his very worst in the first half, when there's an obvious inflection point, when things got out of hand, I do think you have the ability to go, oh, okay, like, I wonder if this injury is more severe than they're letting on. And they can't afford to not have Anthony Volpe in October, but they can afford to not have Anthony Volpe for the next 2 weeks if they need. And they might need, because guess what? Anybody can go over 23 and look terrible. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
The defense is still good, but Oswald Peraza just happens to be hot at AAA. He's never hot, and he plays great defense. So if you're ever going to make the move, make it now. He played both halves of the doubleheader on Saturday. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, I would love Volpe to get a Phantom IL stint. Would absolutely love
Phantom
that.
could be real, but why on earth is he playing both games in the doubleheader on Saturday?
Yeah, and the concern, we're talking about the foot potentially being the reason he's experiencing issues, which I'm not gonna. I'd be an idiot to overlook that, but usually with the foot injuries, right? You look at quality of contact. Because if you're driving off the front or the back foot, like, that affects how hard you can hit the ball. He's not even hitting the ball. He's 0 for 13 with 7 strikeouts. So something is vastly wrong with the mechanics again. Again, Paul O'Neill is saying it on the broadcast. It doesn't take a genius to look at what Anthony Volpe's doing. And you can go on Twitter. You can look at all the swing side-by-sides. Don't know what's happening. Don't know how this keeps happening. Don't know why there isn't a closer look on him, or if there is, why the closer look isn't getting any better. It's getting worse. So I hope he's okay. But you're right. If there is a time to fix it, it's to give him the rest now while the rest of the lineup is hitting the shit out of the ball for the most part, and get another young player up here who can provide some energy and athleticism. Look, like at this rate, Oswald Peraza can't do any worse than Anthony Volpe at the plate.
Yeah, I'm not telling you to take the foot off the gas pedal. I'm telling you to replace somebody who hasn't gotten a hit in a week and might be injured with somebody who could maybe improve upon that and maintain that defensive consistency. And I'm not even an Oswald Peraza believer, but
no, neither am I.
You're going to call him up when he's hitting 300 with power, or are you going to call him up when he slumps in 2 weeks and the roster's expand in September and you need depth? Just do it now. Use the bullets.
Yeah, since the trade deadline, Volpe is 7 for 37, which is 189 batting average. Has not walked once in those 9 games, 37 plate appearances, 595 OPS.
But that means it was 7 for 14.
Yeah. Well, he was hot, and maybe it's my fault because I commended Aaron Boone for making the switch of moving him out of the leadoff position at the beginning of July, and we saw the uptick at the end, since the All-Star break. He was on fire from the All-Star break until what? 6 days ago?
Mm-hmm.
5 days ago?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, all the good fortune is gone. This is what keeps happening with these players. It's like, they go on a night. Anthony Volpe's batting 450 over his last 7 games. You're like, that's sick. And they're like, and now he's batting 0 over his last 8 games. And it's like, so he's batting 200 now?
Yeah, 0 good.
So none of it matters anymore? Okay, great. The good news is that they were winning when Anthony Volpe was providing offense, and they've managed to win when he's not putting up offense, or they've managed to stay afloat without him putting up much offense. But again, all I'm asking is why this keeps happening with him, especially. Like, we preach more than anybody that development is not linear, but man, it can't be this big of a roller coaster. It can't be hottest hitter on the team, bar none, or only behind Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. Because if those guys don't exist, he's clearly the best hitter on the team, or unplayable on the offensive end. It's just, I don't know how it keeps happening.
And when there was a clear overhaul at the break and he was like, I'm not doing anything different, wink, wink. And everybody was like, come on, stop lying. And now he's over 23. And it's like, maybe he was telling the truth. Maybe he wasn't doing anything at all. Yeah. No progress. But on the flip side, Austin Wells, it's going to take for me, I need to get to the end of I need to see more than 44 games, but there's also a reason why people are touting his 44 games since June 6th. 300, 394, 523 with a 917 OPS, 7 homers, 14 extra base hits, 28 RBI, 20 walks, and the same double into the right center gap 15 times. It's just over. Of all the XBHs, I would bet that 7 of them were homers and the other 7 were doubles into the gap in the same exact spot. Jose Trevino, did I miss the Yankees announcing that he was rehabbing? Because he played at Somerset yesterday and says, I'm feeling good, tested my quad, ready for whatever their plan is for me. I would obviously welcome Jose Trevino back as a backup catcher position that has a ton of value. And Carlos Narvaez playing it right now and not playing very often because Austin Wells has been such an indispensable bat. I have no issue. 2009 Yankees used Jose Molina to perfection, right? Good teams have good backups. Jose Trevino is a really good backup. You got to play him twice a week, but no more than that. And one of those games when you play Trevino has to include Wells as a DH. Mm-hmm. You have to be careful not to wear down Wells either. He does need off days. Catching is hard. That's the problem when your catcher is like a stud at the plate because you really can't use them every single day. But get Wells a day and a half off every week that Trevino's back. Get Stanton a day off because he's going to need it, whether or not you cry about it when it happens. But you'd be better off giving Stanton some blows now. Totally workable. If Trevino feels up to it, he can play a couple of times a week, but 50-50 split exactly before Trevino went down. And Wells is now the catcher of the future, catcher of the present. We can't mess around. Do whatever you need to do to keep Wells fresh. If Boone thinks that's if Boone thinks that's 2 days off per week rather than 1.5, okay, I'm not going to yell at him. But that split is no longer even, folks, because Austin Wells is emerging and you got to ride this heater.
Absolutely. He's been legitimately good over his last 46 games since the start of June. And in July, over his last 28, which is days, which is 19 games, 338 average, 942 OPS. Like, I will die on the hill that even when we were looking at his production earlier in the year and we were saying, why isn't he playing more than Jose Trevino? And people were like, well, he's not hitting the ball.
Yeah, he's not good.
He's not getting hit. And it's like, yeah, you're right. But like, if you're watching the games, he's putting up good at bats and he's ripping the ball and he's getting robbed. And I understand that that's not always an excuse because that's part of baseball. But this is a guy who had a month of MLB experience prior to this year. Like, he's afforded the opportunity to go through a stretch like that and see the other end of it. We're not talking about like a random guy coming up from the minor leagues looking to fill some reps. And it's like, oh, why isn't he playing more? And it's like, well, on top of getting robbed, he's not really viewed as a instrumental player. So what's the point of doing it? No, Austin Wells was a first-round draft pick. It was believed his bat would excel to the major leagues and ascend to the major leagues relatively fast. And I think that assessment has generally been true. Mm-hmm. He's never been not once have I seen him overwhelmed by major league pitching. Not once have I seen him and not once over the last month and a half have I seen him put forth an uncompetitive at bat, like we've seen so many times plague this Yankees lineup. And don't forget, like, again, he has how many games under his belt? Baseball Reference, give me the number. He has 99 games under his belt. And this is a guy who is already logging cleanup hitter reps and is viewed as an important piece because of when he's seeing the ball well, it's more valuable than apparently maybe Giancarlo Stanton in the cleanup spot. Mm-hmm. And Aaron Boone's made that abundantly clear over the last couple of weeks. Like, Austin Wells has gotten cleanup reps over Giancarlo Stanton. And you throw in the fact that he's been really good on the defensive end catching. He's developing a rapport with the pitchers and developing a game plan. So, I mean, you look at the way that he's succeeded and the way that he's been able to ride the wave of whatever the positive trend is here. And it's absolutely not an even split anymore. And I think maybe he should get maybe 1 day off a week moving forward. And then the other day that Jose Trevino catches 2 days a week, Wells is off fully for one of them, and then he's DHing in the other. That's got to be it, right? I don't know.
Got to be it.
Feels right. But yeah, 761 OPS this year, like that's fucking good for a catcher.
Yeah.
With 80 games and, a decent amount of that was part-time duty in the first couple months of the season. So it's a big league bat. It's a lefty bat, and it's a fearless bat. So that's here to stay.
And I would say quite likely he's just getting started, but we will see. Maybe there's an adjustment period back. But for now, ride the lightning. Hey, thanks for joining us on the show today. We'll talk to you again. Actually, I will not talk to you later this week, Thomas.
I might. We'll
put the ball in your court. You won't see me. You'll probably see Thomas, but we shall see. If not, we'll resume duties next Monday. I'll be in Chicago. I'll be in Milwaukee. Should I attend the Yankees game on Wednesday against the Chicago White Sox? TBD. Totally TBD. Should I? I don't know. Would you? If you were in the same city as the New York Yankees? Probably. But we'll find out. Let's see what's up. Maybe see what the South Side has to offer. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. That's where I'm at. 2 o'clock Eastern time is the typical streaming time for the show. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
Oh, I am at Tommy's_takes. You can find us at the official Yanks Go Yard Twitter account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Please, guys, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Yanks Go Yard. Would be very helpful. Pretty cool. Head on over to yanksgoyard.com. The content is there. We're writing about a lot of stuff. I know sometimes you might think August is the dead-ish month, but it's not.
You're wrong.
Trade deadline fallout. Expanding rosters coming in a couple weeks. Stuff coming down to the wire. Teams got to be prepared. Guys coming off the IL. Got to fine-tune the roster. Still plenty to talk about. Appreciate you guys reading. Appreciate you guys dropping in. We'll talk to you again. Maybe I'll be here Thursday. Depends if there's a lot of talking points. If not, Monday for sure. The crew will be back, and we will thank you for your services.
Hey, I'm thanking you now. You're getting pre-thanked, and we'll see you the next time there's a show on the channel. Turn your notifications on. If you haven't checked out our interview with Jabba Chamberlain, I think you're going to really like that, about the Yankees trade deadline. second half of the season, and previewing the 2009 World Series reunion at Old Timers Day. So always a pleasure to talk to Jabba. Gave us an hour. It felt like he could have given us 7 more. And hopefully we'll have him back on the channel soon. But please check that out if you haven't. Until next time, I'm Adam Weinrib for Thomas Carannante. We'll see you.